Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos.
It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yummity yum. It's like a dream. Yum, 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 yummity yum. Bring your sour cream.
That's right, folks. Today is Taco Tuesday. We're having a good old time here. As you can see, I'm coming to you from out of the office. But hey, I'm here. Mike, unfortunately, is not going to be able to be here. He's traveling right now. He's somewhere in Georgia, I believe. But he's off doing his thing, and I'm here, you're here. So we're going to have a good old time today. Let's start it off the way that we usually do with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks from Hitman Industries. Now, they make rifle and pistol caliber barrels. They are available for you to purchase at any length. All you have to do is go to hitmanindustries.net. If you've purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a good chance you already have one of their barrels, so why not get another one? So whether you're looking to do a brand new build or looking to rebarrel your old rifle, go ahead and start your experience over at Hitman Industries. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to find out why. Just visit them online at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. You will find them at hawgholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. Why is it spelled that way? Because they like helping Americans wear guns. They like it so much, they're going to give you a discount if you use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. You're going to get your hog holster on discount today. And then finally, it's about that time where it's time to upgrade your gear, right? Whether you're looking for boots, whether you're looking for pants, you're looking for coats, whether you're looking for hats, whether you're looking for optics, whatever you're looking for, you will find all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. Folks, they specialize in group sales, right? They have huge discounts for group sales, so you need to go there and check them out. They have a huge selection of products. They have the best customer service available on the market. You need to go there today and check them out and check them out today and take advantage. And once again, at the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be once again at uscombatgear.com. Also want to encourage you, if you have not already done so, you need to sign up for the 2A newsletter. It is produced by 2A News, which is also one of the organizations that helps to produce this program, The Rundown. Folks, I'm telling you, if you're into the Second Amendment, if you're into firearms, and you want to get the news and you don't want to have to look all over the internet for it, this is a newsletter that you need to subscribe to. Once again, they've got the news coming to you from Truth About Guns, from guns.com, from Bearing Arms. They've got the Reload, right? They've got the blogs, whether it be No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money, whether it be from James Herman, who is from, by the way, Jason Herman, I'm sorry, from Arms Room Radio. They have got it all. The latest news from organizations like the NRA, like Firearms Policy Coalition. They even have all of the cool videos and video blogs, whether it be Gun Owners Radio, Guns and Gadgets. Oh, The Rundown. That's right. Even the Loaded Mic, or even Meet the Pressers. Folks, they've got them all. And by the way, also tons of deals that are advertised on the various different sites. Once again, you name it, it's all there. If you're into the Second Amendment, if you're into firearms, I can't think of a better place for you to go than to 2anews.us. That's 2anews.us. Sign up today. And here's the best part about all of it, man. The best part about it is free. That's right. It is 100% free. All you got to do is go to 2anews.us, sign up, subscribe today to the 2A newsletter. Also want to encourage you, if you're watching this program live, if you're watching it during the 3 o'clock hour on the West Coast, if you're watching it during the 6 o'clock hour on the East Coast, then you are watching us live. And if you're watching us live, that means we're taking your comments. I'm just looking right over here because you notice I'm in a different place. I'm looking in a different place. If I find your comments to be interesting, then guess what? I will go ahead and read them. You know what the most interesting comments are? The ones where you disagree with me. Because when you disagree with me, it gives us a chance to have a conversation, right? And I like having those conversations, but even more so, I like taking the opportunity to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right, as Mike would say, we will mock you. Anyway, we don't do it because we're mean. We do it because it's entertaining. Mostly because it's entertaining to me. So, as long as I'm entertained, that's what really counts, right? Right. That's why I do this. I do this as a way in which to entertain myself. Funny stuff, funny stuff. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's news stories. And we're going to start off. Now, we've talked a lot about Chicago. We've talked a lot about some of the challenges facing the city of Chicago. We've talked a lot about how, well, let's just be honest, while violence, including violence involving firearms, has gone down in the rest of the country, in the city of Chicago in particular, it has actually gone up. That's right, it's actually gone up in the last year. Now, one would think that they would seek to do something about it, that would be their number one priority there in the city of Chicago. But guess what? It is not. That is not what their main concern is about. In fact, their main concern, according to the mayor of Chicago, isn't that. It is declaring a trans femicide state of emergency. That's right. This being reported by the New York Post. Chicago mayor declares trans femicide state of emergency despite one trans woman killing this year. Let me read a little bit about this. It says, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson declares he is re-upping the city's trans femicide state of emergency to highlight violence against transgender women, despite just one reported killing of a trans person this year, compared to nearly 200 other murders across the city. His social media posting announcing the initiative drew widespread mockery as critics pointed out his bizarre focus on a small population as the city is plagued by dozens of weekly shootings, primarily involving Chicagoans of color. Johnson's declaration suggests an ongoing epidemic of trans murders. There have been 14 transgender people who were killed in Chicago between 2016 and 2024, according to Chicago public media-owned Chicago Times. So far this year, Chicago has recorded 198 homicides, the vast majority of whom are men. For too many, quote, for too many transgender Chicagoans, the sense of belonging they deserve in their city has been denied by exclusion and barriers to opportunity in spaces that should be safe and welcoming, Johnson wrote on X Sunday. Quote, since declaring a trans femicide state of emergency, our administration has strengthened the city's capacity to support LGBTQ plus Chicagoans. This framework builds on that work by centering the voices and lived experiences of trans Chicagoans to chart a path towards safer, more connected city. Trans femicide is defined as the targeted killing of transgender women motivated by transphobic and misogynistic hatred. The city first implemented the state of emergency in 2024. On the weekend of his posting, 39 people were shot, 6 of them fatally, including an incident where an SUV pulled up to a crowd, opened fire, wounding 12 people ranging from ages 17 to 47. Now, here's a problem with this. And, you know, if this is an issue or an area where the mayor of Chicago feels like they need to support, that's one thing. right? If you feel that's an area where you as the mayor need to be supporting or need to be active or need to be doing something, that's one thing. But when you declare a state of emergency, when you say that there is declaring a state of emergency that is insinuating that there is an inordinate number of homicides or amount of homicides that are occurring in a specific area, what happens is whenever you declare a state of emergency and it's not really an emergency, once again, we're talking one transgendered person has been the victim of homicide. And by the way, we don't know if it was because they were transgender. One person has been a victim of homicide, and you declare it to be an emergency. Well, what that does is it denigrates then, or it removes the emphasis in other areas where there actually is an emergency, and quite frankly, where in the rest of the country you've had firearms homicide rates go down significantly. And in one of few places in the entire country where it's actually gone up, you completely and utterly ignore that fact. You completely ignore that you have a homicide issue there in the city of Chicago. Why aren't you just focusing on that? Why isn't that the area in which you are, quote unquote, declaring an emergency? I made it a point to look up, and I asked, I wanted to make sure that I looked it up and asked, has there been a state of emergency declared for African Americans or Latinos? Because those are the ones who are primarily being killed in Chicago. And it's never been declared. There's never been declared a mass homicide or a state of emergency for homicides, period, let alone for homicides for African Americans, in particular for young black males, which you would think that would be something that Mayor Johnson would be supportive of. But not once, not a single time has such a state of emergency ever been declared. Well, why not? Well, because that's not the center of wokeness right now. Anyway, I just think that this is what happens when you have a mayor who's doing everything possible to distract from the poor job that he is doing as mayor. And let's be honest, we remember the mayor, whether it was mayor before him, she was not doing an excellent job. And this guy, sadly, was to the left of her, and he is doing an even worse job, right? We've seen homicide rates go up. We've seen violence rates go up. We've seen the economy has gone down. We've seen the quality of schools there in the city of Chicago have gone down. And yet he's focused on this. I will just say this, and I'm not going to say that this is a left thing or a right thing, even though I firmly believe that this is a left-wing issue. Oh, excuse me, folks. Sorry, I don't have a dump button here, so apologize. But it is definitely a left-wing issue. But even that having been said, at least when you have two-party rule, right, where you have people who are involved in the political process from both parties, at least you have people that are challenging narratives. At least you have people who can share a different perspective on what is going on. And, the majority there whether it's on the city council or in the state legislature, or at least the people get a chance to hear about and debate different sides or different solutions. What you have here is you have an entire city council that it's all on one side, or overwhelmingly on one side. You have you basically keep electing the same person, right, as mayor, whether it be what was her name? Little John was the old mayor, or not Little John. I don't know what her name was, but she was just as bad, if not worse. I mean, she was just as bad as Mayor Johnston. And what they did was they went from left to far left. And the policies got worse, and things have gotten worse there in the city of Chicago. Did they have a chance to go a different direction? They did. He actually ran against someone who wasn't necessarily a Republican. I would say they were probably center left, but they were more of a pro-business, pro-law and order type of probably I would call it old school blue dog Democrat. And they chose to go with the union-backed neo-Marxist. And you get what you get. Their policies have never worked, ever, anywhere. Anywhere these folks have become mayor. You look at New York City, head in the wrong direction. Well, now Chicago, head in the wrong direction. Los Angeles, wrong direction, right? Oakland, wrong direction. Washington, D.C. just elected a mayor who is, I mean, at least what you could say about Muriel Bowser was she was, I won't say she was center left, but she wasn't far left. I mean, all right, compared to me, she was far left. But compared to a lot of you guys, she was probably far left. But for the Democratic Party, she was probably more of a mainstream Democrat than the Democratic Socialist, who basically just won the Democratic primary there, and is likely to go on to, and because they won the Democratic primary, is likely to go on to become the mayor of Washington, D.C. This is not going to be something that is going to bode well for Washington, D.C. But once again, you keep electing the same people, you keep getting what you get. I mean, at a certain point, Democrats are going to learn that, or Democratic voters are going to learn that, you know what, we need to probably start listening to the other side. Even though, the people in Hollywood and the people in academia are going to call them racists and they're going to say that they're bigots and they're going to make all of these false accusations, you're going to start to realize, in the cities that they run, crime is lower. In the cities that they run, there are more jobs. In the cities that they run, the schools are performing better. Right? In every area that you measure municipal government in those communities, things are going better. Let me tell you, it's not an accident. It's not. It's because the values that they have they're generally implementing in government. And I'm not saying the Democrats can't do that, because I've seen them in local government. I've seen it, in various different places where in local government, a moderate Democrat is able to be a moderate Democrat. They can be pro, law enforcement. When I say pro law enforcement, I mean pro law and order, right? They can support providing an environment where businesses can be successful. They can support accountability. But once you start getting into largely once you start getting into state and national politics, it becomes a little bit hairier for them, because organizations like labor unions and whatnot tend to play a bigger role. But that's also starting to now play out in bigger cities, right? You're starting to see that in places like Sacramento, like Los Angeles, like Oakland, like San Francisco. And once again, notice, I'm naming a bunch of California cities, but in those cities, you're starting to see those things happen. And what's happening is the same thing that happens in these big states, is the quality of life in those big cities is heading south fast. And you have people who are running for office saying, I'm going to fix all this, and they never fix it. All they ever do is they blame somebody else. Usually they're blaming the Republicans, right? They're blaming the white man. But never is it the policies that they implemented. I don't know why. I don't know why they feel like they can't actually tell the truth. Well, I know why they can't. Because it would mean they would either have to change their policies or accept responsibility for it. Now, and here's another great example. So in Chicago, as crime increases, or as the murders go up, right? What they're interested in is not necessarily, once again, looking at their criminal justice policies. They're more saying, because homicides have gone up here more than anywhere else, let's blame the gun. And that's what their goal is. That's what their desire is. The first thing that they do is they start looking at, how can we blame firearms? How can we blame the Second Amendment? How can we blame people who simply want to defend themselves? How can we blame them, take away their rights, restrict the tools that are being used instead of actually dealing with and addressing criminal justice. This is a piece by Cam Edwards over at Bearing Arms. It says, as murders spike in Chicago, Dems demand new gun controls. While homicides are down almost 19% nationwide this year compared to 2025's already historic lows, murders are on the rise in Chicago. According to the crime index, homicides are 9.1% higher in the Windy City than they were at this point last year. The city saw its worst day of violence since 2024 last Friday, and shootings in Chicago doubled last weekend compared to the same weekend in 2025. Chicago Democrats are now calling for a dedicated Office of Gun Violence Prevention at City Hall as a response to the increase in homicides. But as WGN's Ben Bradley opines, the city already has a host of alphabet agencies tasked with making streets safer. And this is from WGN. CPD, that's the Chicago Police Department, the CCPSA, the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, and then there's MOCS, the Mayor's Office of Community Public Safety. Why do we need another city agency? Quote, what this does is create a stabilized department long-term that is not just responding to the whims of today as we battle with sustained issues and we've been experiencing for decades, Chicago Deputy Mayor Emmanuel Andre said. Now this is going back to the Cam. He says, and why can't the CCPSA or the MOCS, not to mention the Chicago PD, battle those sustained issues? More importantly, what are Chicago leaders doing to undo some of the issues that Democrats in Springfield have created over the past few years, including the state's SAFE-T Act, which killed off the state's cash bail system and replaced it with a scheme that allows many defendants to walk free after an arrest without posting any bond at all, no matter how lengthy their criminal record might be. Some Cook County judges are even reluctant to place defendants on electronic monitoring, and perhaps for good reason. The website CWB Chicago reported last month that almost 10% of those who supposedly are being monitored have gone missing, and the Chicago Tribune has a lengthy feature out today documenting some of the criticisms of the program from both the left and the right. Here's the thing, and once again, I'm going to go back to it, and I will at least give the Chicago Tribune some credit, as well as the website CWB, because they're pointing something out, and they're at least pointing out the policies, right? They're pointing out the policies that have been implemented that are not working. Now, here's the challenge, and this is the thing that they won't do. They won't tie the policies to the politicians. There's a reason why Cam Edwards keeps pointing out the Democrats, and he's pointing that out because they're the ones that are implementing these policies. Now, you can not like that. You could say, well, why are you making it partisan? Because it's one group of people who keep implementing the policies that clearly are not working. In fact, their whole goal is, when the policy doesn't work, give us more of the policy. You go and you talk to most law enforcement. I don't care what big city law enforcement agency you talk to. Number one, they'll tell you they know the group of people who are mostly involved and engaged in the violence that we're talking about here, whether it be gang violence, whether it be drug violence, whether it be violence involving firearms. They know who they are. They're not really allowed to do anything about it. They're not really allowed to, if they know that if they go arrest them, they know that they'll be right back out on the streets. They know this already. Because the policies of the people, the mentality of the people who create these policies are that those people that are creating the crimes are the victims, they're victims. And they're being subjugated by society, by the system, by the Republicans, by the white man. They're all being subjugated by the capitalist patriarchy, right? That's all what they believe. That's the stuff that they put out there. What they ignore is that the people who are largely the victims of the crimes of these individuals are the very people they claim that they're trying to protect. We've talked about this before. Study after study shows white people are more likely to victimize white people when it comes to crime. Black people are more likely to victimize black people when it comes to crime. Latinos, Asians. The truth is that people tend to more likely victimize their own. So in communities where you have high incidence of crime of high people committing violent crimes, they're usually committing them against that same group of people. So my question to these politicians is, I get it. You're down for black folks, and I'm glad you're down for black, but are you down for black criminals or are you down for black crime victims? Who are you going to advocate for? I'm not saying that you can't look at some of these instances. And I will say this, some of the programs that have been implemented under these things, and I've seen it somewhere here in Sacramento, some of these programs, whether it's the mentoring programs or it's the things that get kids into other things that help get young people engaged in things other than just roaming the streets, it's a recognition that it's not a gun issue, it's a people issue. And so let's try and find a way to steer the people in a different direction than getting involved in gang or drug violence. So I give them credit for that. I will give them credit for that. But at the same time, you've got to have policies that require people to be held accountable when they commit crimes. In particular, when they commit crimes that have victims. When they commit violent crimes that have victims, they most definitely need to be held accountable. And what I like about, like, for example, the sheriff we have here in Sacramento County is he's not just holding them accountable when they commit these crimes, he's publicizing it. He's letting folks know this is not cool. You commit crimes again, you commit these crimes, you are going to be held accountable. And so what happens is people who are looking to commit those crimes, people who are in that crime business, they recognize this is not a business-friendly environment for me. Let me go somewhere else. And oh, by the way, sheriff is a Democrat. So once again, I said that local government, it's more likely that you will start to see some of these policies implemented. You will start to see a little bit more ideological crossover in some of these things. Not always, but in this particular case, that's exactly what we got here in Sacramento with our sheriff. Same thing, by the way, with our district attorney. Was declined to state when they ran for district attorney. Now his name is Tin Ho. He's now a Democrat. He's running for Congress. He's running on the Trump derangement syndrome ticket. So, but really, it's kind of funny because when you listen to him talk, he sounds on law and order stuff. He sounds like a Republican. But then you get over to the when on everything else, he's Trump orange man bad. That's his kind of thing there. But anyway, so that's what's going on right there with that. All right, moving right along. Here's another one. California forces taxpayers to pay for and fund a gay loyalty test. Now, you'll love this one. So the Public Utilities Commission, in order to encourage somewhere around $600 million or million dollars in investments, in order to encourage the state to do business with firms or utilities to do firms with LGBTQ plus businesses, part of the way in which they're facilitating that is they've created a test or a thing where they're now saying, okay, well, how can we determine if you are an LGBTQ business? Here's a story, and I'll let Mr. Rufo, Chris Rufo, explain a little bit more about how this test or this questionnaire works.
Is pressuring the state's public utilities that provide electricity to millions of homes to award up to $633 million in contracts to LGBT-owned firms. And the state has actually set up an official gay certification program. You have to submit letters from your doctor, letters from your friends, an award from an LGBT organization to qualify to get these special contracts. And it's not only
crazy.
outrageous.
Is that legal?
Yeah. It's not only outrageous, it's also illegal. And look, if you're LGBT, you should have the equal rights, according to everyone else, to compete for these contracts. What's happening is that the government in California is saying that these contracts are only available if you pass their gay certification program, and all heterosexual people are denied these opportunities.
Has anyone been harmed because of these contracts? Can anyone say that they were denied a contract because they didn't have this certification, or wouldn't say that they did?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. This is happening, and fortunately we have Harmeet Dillon, who's the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. She's already on top of this. She's sent a letter to California. She's opening an inquiry into this. And look, it has to stop. We can have equality in this country, or we can have unequal treatment in this country. I know we're for equality. That's the standard that we need to have. No more gay-only contracts, no more race-based contracts. It's only should be based on competence, merit, and quality of the product.
All right, so here's the story. It's over at KTSA. Once again, California forces taxpayers to fund gay loyalty tests for $633 million in government contracts. California has officially gone off the deep end. The state is now requiring business owners to prove they are gay enough to qualify for hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer-funded government contracts. According to the bombshell report from Town Hall, which cited original reporting by City Journal, that is not a parody, that is not a misprint, that is exactly what is happening in the most progressive state in the nation, and it should alarm every single American taxpayer. Here is how the insanity came to be. Years of radical Democrat leadership in Sacramento constantly pushing the boundaries of left-wing social engineering eventually produced a program through the California Public Utilities Commission that funnels $633 million exclusively for business owned by gay or transgender individuals. Activist groups had pressured state officials with claims of widespread anti-gay discrimination among utility companies, and rather than investigate those claims with any real scrutiny, Democrats simply opened the government checkbook and handed it over based on identity. And here is, let me pull up the questionnaire, and you can kind of take a look and see what some of the quote-unquote requirements are here. Okay, so you have a copy valid of a municipal, state, or licensed certificate of marriage, civil union, or domestic partnership, proof of domestic partnership with health insurance utilization, copy of a petition for same-sex partner hospitalization or visitation, evidence of completed or attempted parenting or family building efforts with same-sex partners, letters. Oh, here we go. 3 letters of reference from personal contacts on their company letterhead or stationery who have known owner over a year that can vouch or attest to their LGBT status, a physician carry letter evidencing gender reassignment or related medical procedures, yada, yada, yada. I mean, now, first of all, my first question is, I would love to see the evidence that LGBTQ, in particular trans, that they are underrepresented when it comes to government contracting. I would really, really like to see that. As far as I know, no evidence has been provided that is in fact the case. I do know that historically, and I haven't seen any studies recently, so I have to admit I haven't seen anything recently, but I do know that members of the LGBTQ community generally tend to have higher levels of education than those per capita than the average Californian or American. They tend to have higher incomes. They tend to have higher disposable incomes, largely because they're less likely to have kids. That's in part. But I mean, overall, I've seen no evidence. How about that? Let me say that. I've seen no evidence of either current or historic discrimination that has necessitated a basically what is like basically an affirmative action pool of money set aside like this. Now, you can't do this in California for Black or Latino owned businesses because that would be illegal because you can't do it based on race. But you can do it based on LGBTQ status. How is this okay? Why is this okay? Once again, we're talking about, I know, I live in California. I get that to a certain degree, I subject myself to this sort of stuff simply because I live here, simply because I choose to live here. Let's make no doubt, I choose to live here. No one is forcing me to live here. I will say that I like being near my kids and my grandkids, but this is where my tax dollars are going. In other words, I'm not necessarily for these companies that contract with the with these utilities. I'm not getting the best product for the cheapest price, right? I'm not getting the best service for the cheapest price. I'm not getting the best value. I'm getting the best value for this $633 million based on, your status of who you prefer to sleep with. And make no mistake, that's exactly what this status is set up for. It's set up based on who you choose to sleep with. Am I wrong? I do not believe that I am wrong. Anyway. Moving right along, James Tallarico admits that he is a Christian who hates Christianity. Now, why do I keep bringing up James Tallarico? I know you guys are like, well, first of all, he's in Texas, he's running for Senate, he's running against Paxton, why are we focusing on one Senate race? The reason why is because this guy in particular is, as a person who claims to be a Christian, and once again, I'll be the first person to say, ain't none of us perfect. Ain't none of us Christians are perfect. But the one thing that I am not going to do, I am not going to take things that are clearly and utterly contrary to the Word of God and act as if they are consistent with the Word of God. And that's why dude bugs me. That's why he bugs me. That's completely and utterly why James Tallarico bugs me. And every chance I have to point out that he is a fake and that he is a fraud. And if you want to vote for him because he's a liberal left-wing Marxist, and that's the reason why you want to implement him because he's a left-winger, then go ahead and vote for him because you like that. But if you are under some illusion that that he is a Christian, no, that's not him. All right, let's move right along here. Let's see here. So this is a story, once again, over from Breitbart. James is a non-binary James, quote, God is non-binary, end quote, Tallarico, admits he's a Christian who hates Christianity. U.S. Senate candidate James Tallarico, neighbors with uterus, now they call him James Neighbors with Uterus Tallarico, admitted in a recently unearthed podcast, I always think of myself as a Christian who hates Christianity. And once again, I don't know if you can hear this, but I'm going to go ahead and play it and see if you can hear it. Yeah. So anyway, so he says it. But anyway, it says here, the story begins in February 2021 when James, not all that gay Tallarico, I'm loving all these nicknames. James, not all that gay, James, not at all gay Tallarico, noticed that someone named Robert Shea Espinoza followed him on social media. Tallarico was so flattered and thrilled, he practically squealed like a little girl on social media fan letter. Here was the middle thing. Please note, please note her pronouns. They are they, more. Espinoza once noticed a paper for, once wrote a paper for the Journal of Feminist Studies in Religion titled Transing Religion, Moving Beyond the Logic of the Heteronorm Binaries, reveals the Federalist. This means that her goal was transing religion as one approach to methodologically dismantle the logic of the norm that grounds the reproduction of binaryism and theologies of complementary. Anyway, the whole point is, now I get why some people can kind of like, they like that thing, because there are a lot of people who are Christian who are against quote unquote organized religion, right? Or have problems with. May not necessarily be against it, but they have problems with organized religion, because what tends to happen a lot in organized religion is you get a lot of man-made stuff, or man rules, right? Rules and things and norms that are put together by men that are not necessarily biblical or scriptural. So I get that, right? I had a good friend of mine who was a part of a church denomination that, I'll just say, they didn't believe that men should wear pants, they didn't believe that men should have facial hair, they didn't believe in singing or dancing, even though the Bible forbidded none of that. In fact, the Bible talks about, believers singing to the Lord. It talks about believers dancing before the Lord. But once again, when you get into these organized faiths or organized religions, man tends to get in the way, tends to get in there and put a lot of man rules there. Doesn't always happen, and different churches to different levels or different degrees. But that's not what he's talking about here. His whole thing is that he wants to talk about, just God's love, and doesn't want to talk about God's judgment, right? Doesn't want to talk about God's rules, doesn't want to talk about being righteous. You could talk about loving, but you can't really understand God's love until you understand God's judgment based on his word. Now, you're like, well, why is God so judgmental? Why is he so mean? God's not mean. You know what? If God loves us, he just let us do whatever we want. That's what some people think. That God would just let you do whatever you want and, he'll love you anyway. He does love you, but he still holds you accountable. He still holds all of us accountable. Now, one of the ways in which he helps us is by giving us the gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ came, died for our sins. If we accept that gift, then our sins are forgiven. Right? But what he does not do, and what he's totally against, is people who are going, and there's plenty of scriptures out there who talks about those who go out and blaspheme, those who go out and add to the word. It says, Bible, you're not supposed to add a jot or a tittle. And that's exactly what dude does. He adds a lot of jots and a lot of tittles, right? In fact, in many cases, he just flat out misrepresents the word. Just totally flat out misrepresents it. He is going to be held to a higher standard when it comes to when he goes for judgment. He is going to be held to a higher standard. Now, you don't have to be Christian to believe in that. You don't have to be Christian to follow that. I'm just telling you what the Bible says. If he is a Christian, if he is, as he says he is, a Bible-believing Christian, then he knows what it says, and he knows he's putting himself in a predicament. But if he is in that process, he is trying to attract Bible-believing Christians. That's where I feel my responsibility is to tell y'all, hey, dude ain't right. The things he's saying isn't right. And I am not a person who generally tends to go out and question whether someone is Christian or not. And by the way, I'm not questioning whether or not he has faith in God. What I am questioning is the things that he is putting out there as supposedly consistent with the Word of God. That is not. I am questioning the principles he's putting out there that he is claiming are biblical principles that you and I know are not biblical principles. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, right? Once again, not saying, just saying. And if dude wants to, if anybody out there wants to question whether or not I am right or I'm wrong on that, all I will say to you is, go check out the Word. Do what do what I would have you do, what you would have anyone else do, right? I would always question whether or not, I would always go out and question, is what they're saying consistent with the word? How do I know? I go and I look at the word, right? That's how I know. I know because I've checked out the word for myself. And because I've checked out the word for myself, I got a better idea as to whether or not what they're actually saying is, once again, consistent with that word or not consistent with that word. And Mr. Tallarico, not so much. Once again, not saying, just saying. You're raising some questions for me, sir. Once again, not saying, just saying. All right, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com, use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, and get your Hog Holster today. All right, now all of our parting shots today are going to be brought to you by the Babylon Bee, or as I like to call it, fake news that you can trust. And, oh, I am in the right spot. Cancel. Once again, fake news that you can trust. Let me pull it up over here. Yeah, I'm trying to be both in front of and behind the camera at the same time and not doing a very good job of it, to be frank with you. But don't worry. I got y'all. Let's see now. There, and there we go. Bring it up a little bit. All right, here we go. Well, it'll be a little off, but it'll work. All right, the first one here, 4D chess. Trump makes reflecting pool even swampier, so it will reflect DC more accurately. Yeah, okay. This is funny for a couple of reasons. One, because, yeah, it's a little swampier. Yes, DC is kind of swampy, so it is there. But quite honestly, I've never been one. I've never been one to believe the whole Trump is operating on 4D chess type of believer. All right, this second story, it says Democrat candidate for Michigan 32nd District, Michigan District 32 State Sanitation Board promises to free Palestine. Well, there's two things that every Democratic politician pledges to do. One is free Palestine. The other is to fight Trump. And then finally, Obama Library cruelly disenfranchises millions of black Americans by requiring voter ID for entry. Oh, yeah, that's funny. That's funny. I don't care who you are. That is funny. Because, yeah, but, Democrats, they claim to care about access. They claim to say, well, it's disenfranchising. Well, wait a minute. So how are folks able to get into, how are folks able to get into the presidential library without an ID, or get an ID to get into the presidential library, but they can't get an ID to vote. Anyway, I digress. All right, folks, that now brings us to the end of the program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We've got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out today at cragop.org. We've got Hog Holsters. That's right, the best in concealed carry tactical holsters, available at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. And then we've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun, and that would be at uscombatgear.com. And that's going to be it for today's program. We will be back tomorrow on Hump Day. Till then, y'all have fun. Stay safe. We will see you mañana.